Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge.
And I'm Ashley Sledge.
And let's talk horror.
So today we're going to do our review on The Strangers Chapter 1.
We're going to be giving you guys our positives of the film, our negatives of the film, and then we are going to spoil it. So if you haven't seen it yet, we strongly recommend you go and check it out and then come back and see our review.
Let's get to the positives. So the scenery is very beautiful. There's some drone shots that I really enjoyed. I thought it looked really great.
Yeah, they did a lot with the camera work that I thought. Some good, some bad, and we'll talk about both. But there is a great shot of Sackhead or Baghead or whatever the hell you want to call him in the mirror when Mia's playing the piano when she's at the house by herself. It's a great shot. That's one of the shots where we were both like, ooh, that looks pretty good.
Like, look up. Like, oh, you see him in the mirror. Yeah, I really like that. The performances are great. The actors are great. I felt like you actually were rooting for them.
To a point. Okay, now look, we know this is a remake of a movie that came out less than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So they at least tried to do a couple things different than what the original did. I wish they would have did a little bit more differently, but they at least made an attempt to do a couple things here and there a little bit differently. You definitely felt like they were more in love in this movie. So they did do a lot of things differently, just not differently enough.
She actually wanted to marry him in this one. So in my thought, and Ken's too, this can either go up or it can just get worse from here. So we have 2 more chapters to get into, and this could really enhance this one. So we'll see. We'll see what we get with the other 2 chapters. Maybe this will be a great little trilogy.
Now, we can't talk too much about it until we get to the spoilers, but they've already filmed chapter 2 and 3. They filmed all of them at the same time. So chapter 2 is going to pick up right where this one leaves off. And like I said, we'll talk more about that in the spoilers. But for now, we're going to talk about some negatives of this film.
So some of the negatives, off-screen kills. I hate off-screen kills. Like, I want to see cool, original kills. Like, I want to watch that. As a horror fan, I want to see that. I don't want to cut away and then come back and see the aftermath. Like, I want to see them brutally getting murdered.
You don't get any of that in this movie. Ryan's character annoyed the shit out of me for the first 2.5 acts. I don't know if it's just because he's overly negative or he just seems like he's pouting all the time. He's just not somebody I'd want to be friends with. The actor did great. I thought he was great. Like, a good-looking guy. Towards the end of the movie, I really started to feel for him. But for the first 2 acts, I was just like, this character is a dumbass, and he whines all the time. Yeah. Like, I'll just stick with that.
There was very little originality. There was so much that it almost was like beat from the OG, and it was just like, why did we need this chapter 1? We've already seen this chapter 1. Like, let's move on to chapter 2. So
I get why they were doing it, because the age difference. So now they got to have this character be what's going to be in chapter 2.
But I just wish they would have changed a few things up.
The things they changed weren't enough.
No.
They tried at a couple points, and there was a couple things, like you guys have seen it in the trailer, but like the dead turkey hanging with the blood. Like, little differences like that, but it just wasn't enough.
No.
There's way too many horror tropes. Like, oh my gosh, the power went out. Look, I can see the thing, but when I look over, it's not there anymore. And when I look back, it's there again.
My car won't start, so we have to stay in this town for the night.
I'm going to hide in this closet from this person. I'm going to cover my mouth so they can't hear me, but I'm also going to keep my phone's flashlight on right at the door.
But it's probably not the killer. It's probably my boyfriend.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that.
A lot of horror tropes. And in an hour and 20 minutes, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm getting chased and I fall down. Like, there's just so many different horror tropes where you're like, do something original, please.
Yeah. So I talked about how cool the drone shots were and the beautiful scenery. There was some weird camera decisions that they were like really close to their face. Like, you could see like their pores, like they were so close to their face.
It wasn't even like in moments of anxiety either.
Like if they were doing something with their eyeball or something like that.
Like they're literally having a conversation and they're like this close to the camera.
It was
and
odd.
then it goes to her and then it comes back to me, and I'm still this close to the camera, and I'm talking, and then it goes to her, and then it comes back to me, and I was just like, are you gonna pan out? Like, I feel bad for this guy. His face is just like, I'm in his business this whole time.
Yeah. He's like, get out of my bubble.
Right. For being a short movie, it felt like there was a lot of filler time. Running through the woods, checking places where you've already been, and
looking around.
In a slasher like this, I want more action-packed. The third act was pretty action-packed.
Yeah.
But for the first 2 acts, there's a lot of points where you're like, can we fucking do something? Like anything? Like at all, please?
Yeah, and there was a lot of stupid character decisions.
We'll talk about these really a lot more in the spoilers.
They are in the spoilers, but just like hiding spots, like Ken already said, leaving your camera on when you're hiding, things like that. It's just like, if you really want to live, like, this is not what we do, people.
Training your gun on someone and not using it.
Oh, yeah, that too. Yeah.
A lot of character decisions where you're like, what the fuck are you doing? So those are our negatives of the film. And now, like I said, if you haven't seen it and you do not want to be spoiled, go check it out and come back. If you don't mind spoilers, keep on watching, because we're going to spoil the film for you.
All right, guys. So like we said, we're going to spoil stuff now. So they have this old motorcycle that Jason leaves to go to town with. And so that's going to be like their scapegoat. Yeah. When they go outside, it just blows up out of nowhere. As soon as they walk outside, it's like, what? Wait, what?
Now,
like, it wasn't even on fire or anything.
I want to add, after the explosion, you see like a line of fire that goes back to Sackhead, and he has a gas can. But you didn't see the line of fire going up to the motorcycle. You didn't see it climbing the motorcycle. It just all of a sudden blows up. So they try to justify it by like, oh, look, he had a gas can, and there's a trail of fire, but it was not at all. There was no fire at all, and all of a sudden it just blew up.
Yeah, which is like, well, that's pretty convenient.
Right. And like I said, they tried to afterwards, like, oh, fuck, how are we going to do this? It still didn't work. There's unironically funny moments in this movie. Like, there's a part where Sackhead turns on the record player, and he just starts, like, snapping along to the song. And, like, there's a part where they're ordering vegetarian food. There's a part where he orders a turkey melt, and when they see a poster for a missing person, they're like, oh, yeah, he went missing right after he left here. And he's like, well, I hope he didn't have the turkey melt. And they're all like, ha ha ha. And she's like, he did.
Yeah.
It's just like, I did laugh a couple times. I was like, okay, that was pretty funny. You've been engaged to her for 5 years, or you guys have been boyfriend and girlfriend for 5 years. What are you waiting on getting married for? And he's like, at this moment, I'm waiting on my turkey melt.
Yeah. Like, it's kind of funny because, you know, the OG, she
turned declines.
Him down. Yeah. So in this one, he's playing it safe.
Right.
So we get this really cool, they're like crawling in the crawl space to get out. And Mia, she, her hand goes on this nail, and it looks so painful. She can't scream because they're right above them.
The practical effects of it look really
great,
good too.
Yeah.
And then they do and then he pulls it out and pulls her head into his chest.
So she can
and he's crying. He's like, I'm sorry. This is when I started to like him. Everything before this, I was like, this guy's a fucking idiot. You know, in the original, you have him killing his friend that comes to the house. Well, in this
which is way more like
personal.
It's personal, and you feel like, oh shit, that sucks.
Well, in this one, it's just they say it's the owner of the house that they shot. I think it was the refrigerator repairman they called earlier in the movie, which might be the same guy, because he definitely had a toolbox with him. The fridge wasn't working. They called a refrigerator repair guy, and then he was there. So it might have been the owner that was doing that, but if it's the owner, why isn't he just there? Oh, because he hunts stuff. Okay, but I'm answering my own questions now that I'm actually thinking about it.
It's the Airbnb that he rents out to people.
When he's not hunting.
Right.
But yeah, when you have that moment, you don't feel anything. You're like, okay.
Like, it's this owner that we've never met. And
they've never met either.
Yeah, they didn't even know who it was. They just decided it wasn't one of the bad guys because he didn't have a mask on.
Right. That's how. He didn't have his mask on.
Yeah. So Ryan, he dies.
One stab to the stomach.
Yeah. And so then you have Mia. She also gets stabbed, but she survives. And she is laying in the hospital bed. And then she's like looking around, and then Sackhead
to be continued
right next to her. And
well, at first you have her in a hospital bed, and it just says to be continued.
Yeah. And then you have like the
mid-credit scene that shows Sackhead is laying in the bed with her. So like I said, I'm hoping that we improve on quality in the next film. Again, they were kind of handcuffed in this film, and I get it.
Yeah.
Like, even though I don't like a lot of this because I've already seen it, they were handcuffed. They were trying to tell the same story, and they want to extend it. So they kind of had to show us what we've already seen in order to extend it to the next one, but you could have done it better. You didn't have to go beat by beat for what you said.
Why are you doing this to us? Because you're here.
Well, it doesn't.
I cringe every time.
It doesn't like hit the same.
No,
it doesn't at all.
It doesn't at all.
And that's horrible.
Right. And it's like, oh, this is the start of the Strangers, but they've already killed people before this. This wasn't their first time.
Right.
We watch them kill their first victim at the very beginning of the movie, and then he's the one who's missing when they're in the diner talking about the turkey melt. So
all I know is if the next one, it starts off with them going to like a campground type place. I'm throwing in the towel.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm hoping that this is obviously we're going to continue the story. We're going to pick right back up in the hospital because it literally ends on a to be continued. So thankfully this next one's coming out in the next couple months because like we said earlier, they filmed them all at the same time. All three were filmed at the same time. But what I'm worried about is if this one does as bad as it's projecting to do, these other two might go straight to streaming, which would be cool because we'd get to see them in streaming. But even if I don't like a movie, I do like the theater experience.
Yeah.
So at a guess, my guess is Chapter 2 and probably definitely Chapter 3 are going to be straight to streaming, straight to VOD. But either way, go out there and support horror. Check it out. Maybe you'll find things of it that you liked. As of right now, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5. This could raise with the next movie. It could fall with the next movie.
Let's just hope that it raises.
Right.
I'm hoping that we really do get this really great trilogy. So we'll see.
Well, and like I said, they were handcuffed with this movie.
Yeah.
The next movie, there's nothing they're handcuffed to.
Nope.
Everything in the next movie is going to be completely original, all them. So now it's make or break.
Yeah.
You had this story you had to tell in the first one. This next one is all you.
If you go to a trailer park and that's how it ends up, then that's your fault.
Right. But another thing I do want to say real quick is in the original, we don't know. I mean, I think Liv Tyler dies in the original because they say
we do hear her cries though.
But we get her scream and cries.
Scream.
At the beginning, it says the events of that night were never fully understood. Like
she might have amnesia.
No, she's dead. She died. They never got any answers that night because she died. And this one, she didn't. We know for sure she survived. She's in the hospital. She's recovering from the exact same stab wound that killed her boyfriend.
Yeah.
Exact same spot. Exact same stab wound. Maybe if he'd have been more positive, he would have lived. But
yeah, negative people die.
Let us know down in the comments, guys. What do you think of The Strangers Chapter 1? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Hold on. What did you rank this movie?
I ranked it a 2.5 out of 5.
But
yeah, just right in the middle. Really, I don't hate it, but there wasn't anything like I felt like it was unnecessary.
Yeah. Nothing to make us want to rewatch.
Yeah, the only thing that it is necessary for is to continue this trilogy. That's the only thing.
So, like I said, ball's in your court. Let's see what you do with Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. Let's see what let's
amp it up and let's get some on-screen kills and brutal
because even
kills.
the only on-screen kills we get are like a stab.
Yeah.
And a stab.
And then him bleeding out. And when he was on the floor and he was bleeding out, like when
the CGI blood.
It looks horrible, but like even when she then falls, his blood is still coming out. Like how much blood does this dude have?
And he's already dead.
Yeah.
He's already dead.
It's not like they're squeezing the blood out of him.
But like I said, guys, let us know in the comments. What were your thoughts on this? What are your expectations for The Strangers Chapter 2? And what's something you would like to see in that movie? Do you want to see the Strangers unmasked? Is that something you guys would like to see? I
want to know about them. I want to know who they are.
And they definitely gave you a lot of red herrings on who the Strangers could be in this film. That's something a little different. They do go to town. You get a lot of red herrings on who the Strangers could be, who their identity could be. But let us know.
Is the whole town in on it?
Right.
Like, I have so many questions.
But let us know in the comments. What do you guys want to see? What are your expectations? And what did you think of this one? And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It helps to build our channel more than you know. And follow Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror.
Stay who you are.
And we'll see you guys soon.
Bye, guys.